Yeah, I definitely think the match held up. I think Punk's post-match promo was even better in some ways than the promo he cut on Seth the week before. If you haven't seen that, check it out. That was part of the post-show stuff that lasted for almost an hour and a half. But I love the fact of that post-match interview, like even after the main event, of getting that right there. They got a lot of great content for social media and things like that. This match here, you can pick it apart, you can split hairs because they took it so far with the personal hatred, the personal issue, that you expected certain things that could have been like when Seth was punching him in the back of the head. I'm like, okay, that's rough. There's rough parts of this match that made the match. When things are rough, usually you're like, oh, it's not clean, it's not pro wrestling. This match needed things to be a little dirty, a little rough, a little unchoreographed and uncooperative. And they towed that line very well. Now they dipped in and out of wrestling, which you have to do. That's just going to happen. So you might disconnect some people from it. Let's go to the beginning. I almost thought in a way that they should have did a couple really strong rough lockups around the ropes and even spilled through the ropes to the floor, stayed locked up, gone out and like they won't let go of each other. Like that's a little bit like out there, but start with that wrestling lockup and try to make it rough where you guys won't give an inch. You're going all the way to the outside for a little bit. And then from there, you're just like, screw it. And you start throwing those punches, the hockey punches, like they started the match. Like I said, this is me playing an agent, a producer, giving them little, like, yeah, we can really clean up this and that. But the back and forth, the amount of selling that they needed to do versus this is very much an exception. The amount of selling they needed to do, and more specifically, not do at certain times was really well balanced. In a pro wrestling match that straight up with no blood feud, they didn't sell enough. In this context, they sold enough. And the one little thing, do you want to talk about a little, and I don't have it up here. The first time, and I wish he did it every time in a way, when Seth got whipped into the corner and as he hit the turnbuckle, he grabbed the knee. Did you notice that? Those little things make it for me. You didn't forget. But guess what? He forgot a little bit later. It's hard to remember because you have spots to remember things. I love the fact that he tried the pedigree on the table. It didn't break, but he hurt his knee. That's really good. But then going to it in the ring, it's like, dude, my spine infection. I wasn't saying, man, let me just give it 5 minutes and I'll start deadlifting after that. It doesn't it doesn't work that way. Um, but overall, this match was placed wrong. I love the fact that they did something for these guys to give them a main event. That gave the casual viewer, in a way, maybe purposely, a message subconsciously that these are our top guys and this is WWE moving forward. Did you kind of get that impression as well? But then
Yeah.
again, on it, just so I can say this real quick, Roman Reigns was the guy for 2 or 3 years, and I still thought if you're going to put a guy in the main event, it should have been that guy.
Hmm.
It's hard to say.
I think they put it in because they knew it was going to be the better match. I think that was the entire reason.
Well, but it wasn't necessarily the best ending in the Raw, though. There was no cliffhanger. You had more potential with Rock turning on Roman or the pinnacle of the Bloodline feud or something like that.
Hmm.
The fact you didn't have a cliffhanger on this show was really, what do you do? I mean, you put so many periods at the end of every sentence, not even just a Rock, but did you kill the CM Punk Seth Rollins angle? Did you kill the Bloodline angle? And you have a pay-per-view coming up in what, 2, 3 weeks, February 1st. What's going on with that?
Do you get the feeling that... why do you think that CM Punk won cleanly? Because I thought this feud was going to continue on and on and on, and this is one match, and then CM Punk wins clean and then moves on, basically.
Well, we had a theory that maybe my theory was that Seth maybe may have been planned to be put over, but that promo last week where Punk completely, as you said in the thumbnail, he got cooked. He cooked Seth Rollins in that promo, and Seth looked more like a heel. and a heel could take a loss to end the feud better than a babyface. Obviously, it's the end. If it's the end, I can see Seth turning heel, and I don't know about this. This is entering like really into deep into beyond Paul Orndorff territory of turning babyface, turning heel, turning babyface, and of course he's going to change his gimmick again probably, so the fans don't sing along. Maybe, and this just might be my theory too. Everybody always complains about you know, screw job finishes or the overbooked finishes or disqualifications or trying to protect guys with double countouts, double DQs. We had finishes and clean finishes on all 4 matches on this Raw. I have to say I don't mind it. I just think for a first episode of Raw, don't you want to launch and continue storylines that are going to be paid off later on Netflix? Because if nobody was watching USA or Fox and their first time watching wrestling, you're like, well, my God, I got to watch. Oh, that guy for the past 2, 3. What? Whoa, wait a minute. You see what I mean? You need to assume people never saw it before.
Do you want to mention anything else about the match, or do you want to go straight into the what?
Well, it's
right.
According to the smart board, there's things that I really like, and then there's things that are just stupid, like ROH stuff that you could probably agree with. The number one being the Superplex Falcons Arrow that got got the smart board segment, but 2 things that are what went wrong with that. Do you want to start with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, the GTS is going to be its own segment at the end, so we'll focus on that. We'll leave that out and then everything else.
Here we have my least favorite spot of all time, the beginning or half of it at least, is the superplex into a Falcon's Arrow, where you superplex somebody, but basically you can roll them through and hit them with basically, it's like a Michinoku driver out of a suplex. But in this case, it gets blocked. And here it is right here as we go. Boom, right here. And then Punk will pick him up. Now, there's so much wrong with that. You could probably surmise what I'm going to say, that you get superplexed, which is right here, and we'll go in slow-mo. Superplex, which basically is an amazing bump. And I'm just want to clue somebody that might not know, or people out there, bumps do hurt. When you take a bump, and or more specifically, if you haven't bumped, say in my case, haven't bumped in years, I need minimum of 2 weeks of really torturous training of bumping and working and maybe live action like house shows and other things to recondition my body to take these bumps. These bumps hurt. This is a superplex with both guys' feet. So basically, you're way up here, and then he's going to take them over like this. It knocks the wind out of you. It jars your spine. Everything hurts for the guy doing it and the guy receiving it. So when you have this happen and they take a bump, boom. When you have that happen right there and both guys are landing flat, it hurts. So you disconnect everybody watching out there when you turn around and say, oh, I can come up right here. And then the other guy goes, you superplex me off the top rope, but guess what? I can pick you up and hit you with the GTS. Now, in theory, it was cool. It was a really cool spot. But you know what? Famous last words of any worker going up to a veteran or anybody that has any common sense is, you know what would be cool? Every veteran will get up and walk away. I did it in Maven at the end of the collaboration with Maven. We were talking about during the show, and at the end, I said, hey, man, what if you just say, hey, you know what would be cool? And I'll get up and walk away, because we both have been there. You're like, oh, I got this great spot. It's really cool. And somebody just gets up and walks off, and you have no experience to even realize that what you said was wrong. These 2 guys know better. It's cool. It's something. And I'd still, like, when people say nothing's a finish anymore, this could be a finish. Just a superplex. Bob Orton did a superplex. Dare I say, like, even Michael Elgin, I think, and Nigel McGuinness. Mike Elgin used to do this, the one where he held the guy from the second rope. Remember that? Claudio did it. Cesaro did it. That's a finish. We just talked about it not too long ago, that now the pile driver is something that'll not only beat somebody, but stretcher them and put them in the hospital. Why can't a superplex do that? So we're going to concentrate on the GTS in a separate part, but this here, it hurts. And then you come up here, then we have the GTS right here. Boom. And he hit it really good. Now, we're not going to go into this because I'm matching this up frame for frame, frame by frame, because this exact spot was done to another member of the Shield, John Moxley. So I don't know if these two are like, hey, let's do the same thing. It's eerily the same exact finish as the John Moxley match from AEW. So here we have my split screen Sabruder film on frame whatever. We're going to cover the GTSs to GTSs in sync right here. Do you want me to go slow-mo or in real time? I don't know how much time it's going to take up, but
real time and both, then slow-mo them both. Why not?
okay, here we go. Boom. Here. Fall. Right there. Comes up right there. You could see he had trouble with Seth. It's hard to do a lunge basically with the guy up there, but we're going to go up here where he stands up, and then basically we'll see if it's in sync. Boom there, and boom there. I love the sell by Seth, by the way. So basically what we have right here is this superplex into this up here, and you can see he gets hit there. But basically, these two spots are identical. So these guys were, there we go. There we go. Boom, right there. Oh, he covers Moxley there. But here we go with them both down. Both down. Let them get up there. There we go. Can I sync it up? Can I do it? Yes, yes, yes. I sang it. I sank it up or synced it up right there. So there we go. I mean, it's eerily similar because it's exactly similar. So that's the split screen of that. What are your thoughts on redoing basically the same exact spot and showing that? I mean, people had to know that they did this, and it's two Shield members, two friends, and then we got this finish basically of Punk going over.
Look, it's a tale as old as time. I mean, for God's sake, in the old days in house shows, WWF, they do the same match for 90 days straight, then they go on TV and do the exact same match. I mean, just like replicating a spot's hardly the biggest deal, I guess. But that being said, there's a couple of things I wanted to actually mention, right? A couple of people have said that the jacket that CM Punk wore to the ring was the exact same jacket that he wore during the backstage fracas with Jack Perry at All In. CM Punk was really tired at the end. I know he's in his mid-40s now and everything, but I don't know how much is selling. I don't know how much is he just genuinely needed some oxygen. But I really love, at the end of a match, someone genuinely exhausted, apart from the fact that, one, they've worked hard, is that, two, they make wrestling look difficult, which it is, and it should be made to look difficult, should it not?
This was my biggest, and actually Raven had told me this too, and really pointed this out when he was teaching me psychology and teaching me the little nuance and detail about the pro wrestling business. He hated Shawn Michaels' work, not because he wasn't impressive, not because he wasn't athletic, not because he wasn't charismatic and he couldn't like make a match exciting. The problem was he had one gear. So if he was wrestling 20 minutes and you whipped him off the ropes, he looked just as fresh as minute one. I agree with that. At the end, and that's why I like that promo with him, because at the end afterwards, because you could tell he was winded, you could tell he was tired, you could tell he was spent, and he left everything in the ring. They criticized the Ultimate Warrior before that, oh, Ultimate Warrior was blown up when he got to the ring. And he's like, quoting, like basically paraphrasing the quote, of course, it's exhausting. I went out there and exerted energy. And he goes, and I didn't want to leave anything in the ring for the fans. They deserved to have that effort. If you make it look that easy, the fans don't have any kind of thing like, basically it's the same thing as Cody being in the crowd. That dude's not that big. I could beat his ass. I could do that. Oh, that looks easy. He made it look easy after 20 minutes. I could do that instead of being like, if that guy's been on TV and that guy's been a top guy, and even he's spent and he's tired and he looks hurt, first and foremost, Seth Rollins put a hell of a beating on him. Seth Rollins is no pushover. Seth Rollins is a tough dude, and he's a tough dude because he survived it. So I'm right there with you on that.
One more, there's two more things. One, very briefly, Michael Cole, for whatever reason, decided to let everyone know that Seth Rollins' real name was Colby Lopez. He currently competes as Seth Rollins, but he gave no indication of why he changed his name, which I always thought was very, very odd. There you go. And the last thing is I mentioned it with Roman Reigns Solo Sikoa. There's a lot of finisher kickouts in that one. And then in this one, there was various GTSs and pedigrees and curb stomps. Like every single finisher was kicked out. For the most part, it was the Wrestler A doing Wrestler B's finish on Wrestler B. And then them kicking out, which I can get from a psychological standpoint. They don't do it as well as obviously the person who either originated or perfected that move. That being said, there were an awful lot of finisher kickouts, including a pedigree that Seth Rollins hit on CM Punk. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, that's not his finish. So, I mean, and then according to people, they don't want finishes anymore. So the kickouts are perfectly fine, I guess. He did hit Punk with a pretty rough one. I mean, Punk ate that GTS that he gave him. I mean, that was the whole thing. Punk and Rollins both realized that this has to be because the angle is somewhat real or fully real or 100% real that we can't just do, especially out in the crowd. I saw some of those punches look like live rounds, lots of chops, lots of heavy hitting and stuff like that. These guys, that's probably why Punk looked worn out at the end because he was in somewhat of a real fight. And Seth Rollins, the same thing. They left everything out there. And that's what, like, when we talked about reversing them, you were right. They had the best match on the show. And dare I say it, it was probably the freshest storyline because the bloodline thing has been going on for like 25 years so far. But at the same time, I think the physicality that the company, that the office knew that both of these guys would bring would be a good last impression for the first episode. That's what I believe.